Cole, hopefully nothing. That's the short answer. Both of these entities are supposed to have the same goal, running a secure, free, and fair election. And it's important to point out that's how it has always been. But this ruling means Recorder Justin Heap will have a lot more of a say on how things go moving forward.
This is a surprising ruling.
Tom Ryan, a longtime attorney who's handled several cases involving state election law, explaining his reaction to this Arizona Supreme Court order.
This is less than helpful what they've done here. It will add to the election chaos.
Maricopa County Recorder Justin Heap sued the Board of Supervisors a year ago, arguing they took away some of his authority, including access to IT staff and management of ballot drop boxes. The recorder and board usually work together to run elections. In April, a lower court ruled in Heap's favor, but the Court of Appeals paused that ruling, citing the Purcell principle that state courts should avoid making significant changes immediately before an election. In its ruling, the state Supreme Court acknowledged Purcell but sided with Heap, ordering the board adopt his plan.
They acknowledge within the order that there is an insufficient evidentiary basis to make all sorts of decisions, yet they go ahead and make a decision on this 12-point plan. That makes no sense to me.
Helen Purcell, the former county recorder the Purcell principle is named for, is more optimistic.
I don't think there will be consequences for the primary. I think everybody understands the time crunch that we were in.
Adding insult to injury, he met with the board for mediation yesterday, and court documents show after 10 hours, the parties reached an agreement on all terms to completely resolve their dispute. But as that document was being filed, the Supreme Court issued its ruling. Ryan says Heap will likely ignore that.
I would say more likely than not, he is going to try and get out of the settlement agreement that he reached.
Now, Heap did not respond to my questions about that mediation agreement. Instead, his spokesperson referred me to his response to the ruling, writing, "My office is ready to implement the court's order and deliver secure, lawful, and professional elections." Nicole?
Yeah, what about the board? What are they saying, and what are they able, if anything, to do now?
Yeah, so the board declined my request for an interview. In a statement, they say they are disappointed, but they are committed to working with Heap. Representative for the board says they will meet in executive session tomorrow to discuss next steps. That attorney that you heard from there, Tom Ryan, points out that the board could take the recorder to court over the mediation agreement, but it's unclear if they will.
I was going to say, it seems like it's settled, but it's not, probably. Who knows? I mean, some aspect of this will continue on.
Oh my goodness. Amy, thank you for helping break that down for us.